Welcome to Not So Different, our Neurodiversity podcast. This series explores the life of famous people whose stories spark curiosity. We ask one simple question: could this person have been neurodivergent? Our goal is to start conversations and challenge assumptions. Remember, we are not diagnosing anyone and we are not judging. We're just exploring possibilities. Before I invite you into our second episode, I would like to say thank you for the amazing feedback on our first episode. We were encouraged by your warm response, and therefore I would like you to tune in to Way Out TV on Saturday at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. for more episodes not so different. Okay, here is our second episode. And you know the drill. We are starting with a guessing game. So, who do you think we are putting under the spotlight today? I will give you 3 clues. In the international ranking of the most read books in the world, she comes third, just after the Bible being on the first place and Shakespeare being on the second place. During the First World War, she worked as a pharmacist, gaining the knowledge about poisons, motifs that later appeared in her novel. And she created 2 of the most iconic detectives in crime fiction. Did you guess? Well done! Of course, today's episode is about Agatha Christie, as today we are stepping into the world of mystery and imagination with one of the most celebrated writers of all time. Born Agatha Mary Clarissa Miller on the 15th of September 1890 in the picturesque seaside town of Torquay in Devon. Later, after marrying her first husband Archie Christie, she adopted the surname that would forever be associated with the crime fiction. But behind the fame lies a fascinating life, full of unexpected turns, resilience, and creativity. Let's uncover what made Agatha Christie not so different after all. Agatha was the youngest of 3 children, and she adored her family home, Ashfield, which originally belonged to her mother's family. I would like you to imagine Ashfield. It was a large, elegant Victorian house, spacious enough to accommodate the Miller's family, their servants, and frequent guests. It had large gardens, airy rooms, and a sense of mystery that I believe fueled Agatha's imagination, as it has been debated that Ashfield was a background to the scenery of And Then There Were None. And 40 years later, in her autobiography, she still spoke of Devon and Ashfield with deep nostalgia. Agatha grew up in a comfortable environment during a time of industrial growth and imperial power. Victorian society, however, was full of strict rules. How to speak, behave, even dress according to your social class. This context matters because Agatha often rebelled against these restrictions. She expressed herself by altering her dresses or hairstyles. And at the same time, she appeared quiet and withdrawn. This contrast, rebellious yet withdrawn at times, is significant. It reflects certain ADHD presentations. Some ADHD symptoms look very different from the stereotypical image of, let's say, hyperactive child. In reality, ADHD can manifest in complex and subtle ways, and Agatha's life gives us plenty to think about. Think about her 2 most famous detectives characters. In Christie's works, chaotic side is more often seen in Poirot and his let's say, disregard to rules, social norms, and likes comfortable lifestyle. He also acts unpredictably. Miss Marple, however, by contrast, thrives on patterns and quiet deduction. So Christie didn't just write mysteries, she infused her characters with traits that echo her own mental landscape. Don't you think? The comfortable life of an upper-middle-class family was assured by Agatha's father, Frederick Alvan Miller. He was an American who came to England to study, but he fell in love with Clarissa Bulmer, Agatha's mum, and stayed in England for the rest of his life. Now, he didn't need to pursue a specific occupation because he inherited a fortune from his American parents. Frederick was known as a kind, caring, and intelligent man. But he also had an impulsive nature, should I say, when it came to money. This trait would later create financial difficulties for the family. I would like to pause here because this is an important clue. There is a fascinating relationship between ADHD tendencies and money. Research suggests that individuals with ADHD often excel at making money. And that may be to risk-taking or impulsiveness, but at the same time, they struggle to manage money. Now, studies show that financial instability is common among people with ADHD, largely probably due to the same traits, impulsivity and thrill-seeking. And here is why. Dopamine. Spending money, shopping, buying something new gives us immediate gratification and a dopamine boost. For someone with ADHD, this can become a cycle of saving and spending and saving and spending. If this sounds familiar, remember, you are not failing. It's a neurological pattern. My advice? If you know money management isn't your strength, don't try to do it all alone. Ask for help from someone you trust or from financial institutions. They are really tuned in to ND needs. Limit your access to savings. Why? Because when an impulse urge hits, making it harder to withdraw funds gives the impulse time to pass. And that small barrier can really protect your financial health. So why am I talking about Frederick's financial habits? Because ADHD is often inherited. We sometimes see entire families with similar traits, although the presentation of those traits may differ. And if Frederick was impulsive and risk-prone, there is higher probability Agatha shared those tendencies. Agatha's childhood was comfortable and creative, but her teenage years brought new challenges. After Frederick's death, when she was 11, the family's financial situation became even less secure. This loss deeply affected Agatha. She became more introspective and spent even more time in her own imaginative world. Before we go further, let's pause and challenge a stereotype. The one earlier I called the hyperactive or naughty boy syndrome. The idea that ADHD always looks like a child bouncing off the walls, unable to sit still. And that's not the full picture. Yes, ADHD can show up in physical hyperactivity, like fidgeting, rocking, pacing, but often the hyperactivity happens on a mental level. What does that mean? Well, it means you may be looking at someone who appears quiet and withdrawn, while inside their mind is racing at 100 miles per hour. In one of the books by Edward Holloway, which my assistant recommended to all of us, ADHD mental hyperactivity is described as a brain with Ferrari engine and the bicycle brakes. If you observe a person who appears not listening or not paying attention, remember, they are not disengaged. They are traveling through scenarios, ideas, imaginative world, and conversations that exist only in their heads. And this internal hyperactivity can be just as exhausting and just as defining as the outward sign we usually associate with ADHD. When we're analyzing Agatha Christie's life, this understanding is the key for us. Her reserved demeanor didn't mean she lacked energy. It meant her energy was directed inwards, into creativity and problem solving. And that's why understanding ADHD beyond stereotypes is so important. A great example of this quiet presentation comes from Agatha's memory of a garden ball. At just 16, she was asked to dance with an older army officer. After the music stopped, he returned her to her mother and remarked, "She can dance. Now you just need to teach her how to talk." Agatha later recalled that during that dance, a million things were running through my mind. The officer that brought Agatha back to her mother said that because Agatha Christie never went to school. She was homeschooled by her mother, Clarissa Margaret Boehmer. And Clarissa, often called Clara by the way, by her family members and friends, was well-educated, intelligent and highly creative woman. She believed that traditional schooling killed creativity and restricted child's imagination. So she took it upon herself to give Agatha the freedom to read what she wants and explore her interests. I am smiling as I'm saying this because it reminds me of what we've discussed earlier, the dislike for restrictive institutions among creative neurodivergent people. Do you relate to that? Have you ever felt the same way about your education? I certainly fall into that category. I was better at paying attention to the subjects I loved and often excelled in them. But for those I didn't enjoy, well, let's just say I had a variety of tools to get out of there. Back to Agatha. Not only the difficulties with her early adult life were associated with financial struggles, but also the political situation, and of course, the First World War. When war broke out, Agatha was in her mid-20s. And like many women of her time, she wanted to contribute to the war effort. So she volunteered as a nurse at the local hospital in Turkey and later trained as a pharmacist assistant. This period was transformative. Working in the dispensary gave Agatha access to detailed knowledge about medicines and, most importantly, poisons. She learned their effects, dosage, and symptoms. This expertise became a hallmark of her crime fiction, adding authenticity and complexity to her plots. The Pale Horse or classic Death on Nile are just a couple examples among many. But here's where the neurodivergent lens comes in. Agatha didn't just memorize facts. She fixated over details. I hope you remember the difference between fixation and obsession that we've discussed in our first episode when we look at Alfred Hitchcock. She absorbed chemical names, interactions, and lethal doses with precision. And this kind of intense, focused interest is often called hyperfocus, a trait strongly associated with ADHD. In the book I've mentioned earlier, ADHD symptoms are explained using a brilliant metaphor: an apple and a worm. Let me break it down for you. Hyperfocus is the apple. It's sweet, energizing, and full of potential. When we are in hyperfocus, we can spend hours, even days, working on something with incredible precision and detail, often mastering a skill. And that sounds amazing, right? But here is the worm, the hidden downside. When the focus breaks, the energy crashes. People in hyperfocus often forget appointments, skip meals, or even forget to drink water. And it's not laziness. It's the brain locked into one rewarding task and shutting out everything else. Does this sound familiar? When you are painting, writing, reading, or at the gym, do you feel calm, focused, and unstoppable? And then, when it's over, do you experience the echo of your thoughts again and wake up with low energy? That sounds like hyperfocus. The good news? You can enjoy the apple without the worm. How? By the external structure and support. Have someone reminding you about appointments. Remember, asking someone for help is not being needy, it's problem solving, taking responsibility. Set timers for your creative sessions or workouts. Use small barriers, like making savings harder to access, to prevent impulsive decisions. These strategies will help you to stay balanced and avoid a crash. Do you experience hyperfocus? What does it look like for you? Share your story with us. We would love to hear it. Think about it. In a chaotic wartime environment, Agatha found calm and purpose in a highly structured, detail-orientated role. For someone with ADHD, this makes sense. Hyperfocus kicks in when the task is stimulating and meaningful, with external structure provided for us. Her time as pharmacist also shaped her creative process. Later, when writing, she drew on real pharmacological knowledge. This blend of science and storytelling is part of what made her novels so compelling and unique. Also, the hyperfocus is easy to track in Agatha's writing. Christie didn't just write books, she created worlds. Over her lifetime, she produced 66 detective novels, 14 short story collections, and several plays, including The Mousetrap, which holds the record as the longest running play in history. But how did she do it? Here's where we see neurodivergent traits at work. Agatha often described her writing process as immersive. She recalled, "I'm just doing it. My brain does the job. It feels like I'm observing the making." Once she started a story, she could spend weeks, sometimes months, completely absorbed in her work. This is classic hyperfocus. She wrote anywhere and everywhere, on trains, in hotel rooms, during holidays, and her daughter's birthday party. Her notebooks were filled with meticulous details, character sketches, timelines, and plot twists. Yet, there was the flip side. Agatha admitted to periods of exhaustions and mental fog, even depression-like symptoms. And that happened often after finishing a book. That's the energy crush we talked about earlier, the worm inside the apple. Hyperfocus gives incredible productivity, but it can leave you drained when the dopamine rush fades. Many believe that the hyperfocus crash led to Agatha's disappearance. In December 1926, Agatha Christie vanished. Her car was found abandoned, and for 11 days the word speculated widely. Was it an accident, a publicity stunt, or something darker? Here is what we know. Agatha was under immense emotional strain. Her mother had recently died, and her husband, Archie Christie, had confessed to an affair and asked for divorce. So for someone who thrived on structure and control, this chaos was overwhelming. So what happened? Agatha checked into a hotel under a false name and stayed there quietly until she was discovered. She later stated that she can't remember much from that period, and to this day, the full truth remains a mystery. Now, I'm not claiming all of that is associated with ADHD, but the emotional dysregulation may play the role. And let's look at this from neurodivergent angle. Intense feelings are difficult to manage for all of us. But combine that with impulsivity, and you have a recipe for sudden, dramatic decisions. Agatha's disappearance wasn't planned like one of her plots in the story. It was a reaction to stress, heartbreak, and a need for escape. This event reminds us that neurodivergency isn't just about creativity and brilliance. It's also about vulnerability. Often we are being judged as some of the coping strategies can be unconventional, even shocking to some. And that's because for many neurodivergent people, external structure acts like a safety net. It gives predictability, routine, and a sense of control. When that structure shifts, even temporarily, the brain has to work harder to adapt. And that can lead to emotional dysregulation. Have you ever felt emotionally off when your routine changed? I wonder what helped you to get through that adjustment. Do you want another interesting clue? Agatha struggled with spelling and handwriting throughout her life, which many believe points to dyslexia. Agatha herself stated how the letters often jump and change places. So let's boost a big myth. If you are dyslexic, you cannot write. I hope you agree with me that Agatha Christie is the best example that this statement is simply not true. Despite struggling with spelling and handwriting her entire life, she became one of the most successful authors in history. So if you are ashamed of your handwriting and reading is difficult, talk to your English teacher, your Senko, your neurodiversity manager. Ask for color layout, extra time, and please write, and write. I am dyslexic myself, and with those strategies in place, I've managed to publish scientific articles and research for many years. So as you can see, we offer no excuse. Because here is the truth. Dyslexia doesn't stop creativity. It often fuels it. We will look at Agatha's relationships. One source stated that Agatha met her husband, her first husband, Colonel Archie Christie, on a garden ball in autumn of 1912 at the Downs, hosted by Lady Clifford in Devon. Another source, however, commented that the two met at a military ball for officers stationed in Exeter, where Agatha instantly noticed the tall, fair young man with crisp, curly hair. They married 2 years later on a Christmas Eve in 1914. Shortly afterward, Archie went to serve in France, while Agatha continued her voluntary work in the pharmacy. Unfortunately, the distant relationships are not for all. The stress of wartime separation and his service weariness place emotional strain on Agatha. that influenced the themes of uncertainty and betrayal in her writing. To process these emotions, she used her creative thinking and wrote The Mysterious Affair at Styles, as this book was drafted between 1914 and 1916 and published in 1920. Remember the mysterious disappearance I told you about earlier? This happened after Agatha discovered her husband Fair with Nancy Neely. Their marriage officially ended on 21st of April 1928 on the grounds of Archie infidelity. After she recovered from the difficult period, Agatha regained her structure and emotional balance. She entered the golden era of her writing. It was between 1926 and 1930 she created The Murder on the Orient Express and Towards Zero. You know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I got the impression that after this difficult time, Agatha discovered herself in a new light. She was famous, financially secured, and free of the restriction of the Victorian society. She became a traveller and went to all continents. It was during one of her expeditions to Egypt she met Max Mallowan, archaeologist whose work gave her sense of partnership and inspiration. Their joint travels enriched her writing even further. This second marriage, grounded in mutual respect, became a deep and supportive relationship, lasting until Max's death in 1975. So what can we learn from Agatha Christie's story? In my opinion, her life reminds us that neurodivergency is a spectrum of strength and struggles. The apple is still sweet and nourishing, even if a worm hides inside. Strength and vulnerability coexist. And by understanding both, we can build strategies, microstructures, coping tools that protect the fruit. Thank you for listening to Not So Different. If this episode resonated with you, share your thoughts with us. As we will be back on the 5th of January, my team and I would like to wish you a peaceful Christmas. Thank you.